Have you let anyone in yet?
They're all coming in. You can see the attendees.
I can't
Go
get
ahead
hold
and put, can you go ahead and put the, you're going to want to put the slideshow up and share. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give it a couple more minutes as the attendees continue to join us. And we hopefully, one of our last teachers, Miss Amos, is able to get on as well. So it is 5:58. We'll probably give it till about 6:02, and then we'll get started with the presentation. All right, welcome. Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Ms. Kovaleski. I'm Assistant Director at STEM K-5. We are so happy that you're here with us this evening. It's definitely hard for me because I remember many of you from last year and I don't get to see your faces. So we're just talking to a computer screen. If you do have questions, I know Ms. Land had mentioned the chat box is there. So if you have any specific questions, the team's going to do our very best to answer them as you put them in that chat box. This will be recorded, so if you miss a part or you're unsure about something, the teams will be messaging this out to you as a recording. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't see Miss Amos. I'm not sure if she's having some technical difficulties right now, but we are going to get started, and I know her team will jump right in there and support her and sharing her slides as well if she's unable to get in. But I'm going to turn it over to our fifth grade team. We have Miss O'Toole, Miss Harper, Miss Land, and Miss Amos.
So Miss Amos is actually, she had just messaged me. She's having some trouble getting in, but she'll be joining in just a second. So welcome. We are the fifth grade team. If you can see this, these are our, I guess, images of ourselves, or how we portrayed ourselves as Bitmojis. This is our contact information you'll also have on the syllabus, which we'll send out with some other information.
All right, so for our fifth grade schedule, this is overall how our day looks. So we pick up at regular school time at 7:30 when you drop your child off to Driveline. They will go and stand. We have these new stones that have the teacher names on them. So they'll stand behind the stones with social distancing taken into consideration. From there, we'll go upstairs to our classrooms and we will have community time. This is primarily building relationships among our students and our staff, and really trying to build a positive community during this crazy time and year. After that, we will switch for math class, or switch into math class. We are not changing classes this year for math due to COVID, so we will stay with our homeroom teacher. From there, we go to specials, and well, specials come to us. Sorry, I'm not used to our COVID language, but specials will be coming to our classes and we will be doing them in our homeroom. After that, we have language arts, which will be guided reading and writing. And then we'll have social studies, followed by lunch and recess. One new thing this year is that students will go to lunch first and then out to recess. And then teachers will go outside and pick them up from recess. After that, we will have a science and engineering class, followed by dismissal at the regular school time of 2:30. This year, ideally, we'll be using Pick My Kid as soon as it is up and running. Until then, for those of you who've done cohort A, you've kind of seen how that has worked, and cohort B, we will see you guys tomorrow. So a little bit of hybrid and online overview. Hybrid students are broken up into two cohorts. So we have A, which comes on Monday, Tuesday, and then we have B, which comes on Wednesday, Thursday. There will be assignments posted online as well as instruction. And then when they come in, we will give in-person instruction and assistance as well. They may have homework or need to complete classwork on Canvas when they get home if it is not done within the class period time. Anytime the student is not in person, they are expected to be operating as an online student at home using both our Canvas platform and our Zoom platform. For online, students will also be following our daily schedule and completing assignments throughout the day. So math class is first. They will wake up and attend math class at the regular time they would have if they were in person. And same goes for the rest of their courses. Activities may require students to complete around their house or outside, depending on the situation. That would just be in their backyard or their front yard, kind of wherever their parents feel comfortable doing. And we will also have check-ins during our classes. So during math class, after we are done with our hybrid students of in-person, teachers will sign on to Zoom and we will meet with our 100% online students as well as our online hybrid students for that day. That'll happen in math and language arts every day, and then science and social studies every other day. Our check-in times will be listed on our Canvas homepage each week on what time the students need to sign on to Canvas each day for each of those courses. Mac, you're muted.
Sorry about that. For our fifth grade expectations, this is actually just copied and pasted from our syllabus, which I said you'll receive a copy of. Essentially, now that they're in fifth grade, we want them to try to persevere through challenges on their own and build a little bit of independence. Because I taught sixth grade, it's kind of helpful to take this information back, knowing what the sixth grade teachers expect. Hopefully they can start to organize their drive on their own, navigate Canvas on their own, and submit assignments. Some of these apply to the classroom if they're a hybrid student, so using their voice at the appropriate time, being respectful of others. And then for our virtual expectations, we want them to be dressed appropriately for school. So not wearing their pajamas to their Zoom meeting, not wearing any distracting clothing. And then during our orientation with students, we're going over appropriate use of the chat feature. So ideally they're not saying hi, hello in all of the chats and sending random messages, which will take a little bit of getting used to because it is something they want to do. But we are trying to train them and work around those. And then Zoom is going to be kind of our platform for learning since we're learning from home. I have used Google Meet before, and I think that Zoom's kind of a better tool. It allows them to make different reactions and raise their hand and all of that, and then chat individually to the teacher if they have a question. For grading policy, we are doing a weighted grade system this year. So I know that the students don't fully understand how weighted grades work, but essentially trying to explain that assessments and projects or PBLs will be worth more than classwork. Engagement and reflection activities is just kind of other activities, kind of like a participation. So those assignments, even if they're all worth 10 points, they'll be weighted in the grade book, and that really doesn't show on their end of the grade book, but just kind of to know that assessments are worth a little bit more and are have a greater effect on their overall grade. Anything else to add from the team?
Oh, okay, I'll cover this one. So for student supplies, all students will have or already have received a supply kit provided by STEM. Some people picked them up on Friday, this previous Friday. Cohort A got theirs yesterday, and then cohort B will get theirs tomorrow. And I know some additional parents will be picking them up this upcoming Friday. Students must provide their own computer this year. Fifth grade is the first year at STEM where students are expected to have their own device. They also need to have a charger. At this point, accordion folders are kind of up to the discretion of the student, just because there's not nearly as many handouts as regular non-COVID learning situations. And then please also bring earbuds. Ideally, we'd like not to have headphones. Typically, those are more expensive, and it's not very uncommon for things to break in a classroom. And we don't want children to bring their nice Beats headphones and drop them. Finally, we also want everyone to bring a water bottle. Because of COVID, the water fountains have been blocked off and shut down. So the only option is to bring a water bottle and fill it up at the water bottle filling station. But there's not a water fountain to drink out of. For computer policies, we'll be using it every day, all day. So please make sure it comes in fully charged. If your child forgot to charge it or something happened, they can bring in their charger. We do have a way to charge them, but ideally we would want them fully charged at the start of school. We did send home or got emailed home, depending on what your learning preference is, the technology use agreement for specific policies, along with apps and websites that we'll be using this year. For math, this year there will not be rotations between teachers, so they'll be staying with their homeroom teacher for math, but we would still be taking a pre-assessment, a few different ones, both iReady and then on paper ones and another online one that will tell us where they are currently at with their math, so that we can differentiate for them. We're not going to be rotating for in-person classes. They'll be just differentiated within their homeroom class. We do use Eureka, or also known as Engage New York, along with other resources as determined by the instructor to best accommodate that student. It will all be differentiated to meet students' needs and based on the level they are at, and it is extremely flexible and more of a workshop model.
Grace, can I add something there? With what Ms. O'Toole was just explaining in terms of the assessments to understand student level, it is extremely, extremely important that you allow your students the time and allow them to complete these assessments, the iReady math and reading assessments and assessments that are given at home on their own. It is not, they will let you know if it's an assessment for a grade that's going to go on Canvas and affect their grade. But either way, assessments are, the purpose behind an assessment is to drive instruction. So right now, more than ever, teachers are going to work very hard to identify where your students' needs are and then provide the instruction based on their needs. If parents are assisting them on these assessments, it could mean that they get put in a higher level, or they're given work that is above their level, that when they're asked to complete it independently at school, creates a level of frustration. So please, 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 we ask that you do not offer assistance during those math times, especially when it's for a formative assessment for instruction.
To add on to that really quickly with math, also on Canvas, it does allow us to provide a calculator on the screen, but we can't obviously control their use of using a Google calculator. So ideally, we can teach them how to have integrity and use only the tools that they're supposed to, but just know that during iReady and during tests, they're not allowed to use an external calculator.
So this is a great segue into talking about what we will be doing in language arts. So as we've mentioned before, fifth grade is a lot about teaching students about how to have integrity in their work, independence in their work. So as they're doing their work both in class and online, we really want to teach them how to find the resources that they need on their own to be able to complete work independently. So one thing that we're going to have a big focus on this year is guided reading, which means that your students will be in differentiated groups that meet the needs that they have to be able to understand and comprehend reading. We are really excited about this opportunity, and we're going to get to do it both in class and virtually. We will also be doing a grammar boot camp, a novel study, narrative writing. We're going to use our research skills. We will be doing opinion writing, persuasive essays and speaking and debate, memoir writing, and poetry study. We will also be doing a lot of independent reading so that we can create lifelong readers in fifth grade. Science will also have a lot of exciting topics that we go over this year, and we're really excited about all of the PBLs that we will be able to implement. Some of the things that we will discuss are the Earth's surface, weather, water in the living environment, states of matter, ecosystems, astronomy, and the human body growing and changing. Social studies will have us investigate maps and exploration, colonial America, the American Revolution and the founding era, our nation's documents, government, branches, laws, etc., and economics and personal finance. I know today I already had a student ask all about social studies, and I'm really excited to get started with it.
All right, I was actually just typing in the chat, but it seems that since fifth grade didn't set up the Zoom meeting, Ms. Amos was not included as a teacher, and so she's an attendee and not a host, which is why she's in the meeting and not actually able to speak. And since we did not set up the meeting, we actually can't control and change that. So do not blame Ms. Amos, and she'll contact you separately about addressing her. So we're gonna do a quick walkthrough of Canvas. So all of our online learning will be through Canvas. So if in the past, maybe at other schools, they've used Google Classroom or Schoology or Blackboard or another format, we're using Canvas, which once the students kind of get into it, it's pretty easy to figure out. So we'll kind of go through how you can view it from a parent side, or if your student is having trouble submitting an assignment, or if they don't know how to access links or any of that, then at least you have a little bit of knowledge to support them. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
And while Ms. Harper sets that up, I just want to share that I did notice a few of our students that came in, their computers either had some sort of parental control on their Gmail, or they were unable to log in to be able to utilize the computer. So as you think about getting your student set up with Canvas, if any of those apply to you, please be sure to go on there with them to help get them set up, because as soon as that is established, then it will set them up for learning for the rest of the year.
All right, are we able to see the screen? Okay, so two ways you can get to Canvas. The students in orientation are learning how to log in through Clever, which is just kind of another format that puts all of their apps in one places. Another way you can get to it is by going to the STEM website and clicking on students, and then scrolling down and clicking on student login for Canvas. So mine will look slightly different because I don't have a student profile. However, at least I can show you kind of the general overview. So on their Canvas course, when they first get in, it should come up with this dashboard. Theirs may be in a list. I changed mine to this view. of tiles. So if theirs doesn't look like this and they can't find the courses, they can just go to courses over here on the left. And then all of their courses should show up here. We don't have a whole lot in all of our courses yet. So I'm just going to show my homeroom. So for my homeroom, all the things that have this crossed out I, they can't actually see. So they are actually only seeing home and modules on their screen. So for this, I don't have a homepage set up here yet, but there is a homepage on the other courses. And then to access this view, they can click modules, which in this case will actually just bring me back to what we were just looking at. So for their modules, actually, now that I think about it, I think we have one set up here. So here's the homepage for them, and we shared this information with them, and this is also the information that we screenshot from the slideshow that we're presenting now. So here's the schedule for them, and this is on all of their classes. So if they forget what time of the day they're supposed to be in what class, they can check the schedule. We have our expectations again. We have all of our emails, and we're trying to teach all the students how to email us with questions. If they attended STEM in 4th grade, I know the 4th grade team had shared that they used email a lot. So hopefully they have some background. If they're new to STEM, then we are going to try to teach them during orientation how to send emails, how to ask questions to their teacher since we're mostly online. Then we have our syllabus again. So to access our content, yes, this was the correct course. So how it will look is we are separating each module instead of by content, how we normally would. We're going to separate it by week. So we'll have an agenda at the top of each week, which will give them their weekly schedule. And then underneath, so these are actually just text headers, but underneath there will be assignments that they can work through. And then those assignments will post at the time of the class start. So science grade 5, their assignments for science will show up in gray, but they won't actually be able to do those assignments until science time, which if I check again on the schedule is at 1:17, which I know these are strange increments of time. It's 1:17, that assignment will unlock, and then they can work through the assignments on these days. Some of them will be videos, some of them will be links with instructions, some of them will be just directions to complete an activity away from their computer. So we recognize that it's a long time to sit in front of your computer. So we're going to try to design activities that allow them to get away from their seat and take measurements and take observations away from their computer. Anyone from the 5th grade team have anything to add to that? So we have been kind of playing back and forth with the best way to organize this. We actually just spoke with the 4th grade team today about a good way to organize this. So we will send an email explaining kind of the layout of this and kind of the first steps. So if you are unsure of where your student should go on Monday, or if they're in person or if they're online, then we'll send an email that has all of those directions and the times and all of that stuff for them to have a place to get started. All right. I think that's all we have for our slideshow. Oh, we have this also, sorry about that. Lennon or Grace, would you like to speak to this?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead.
Okay, so we do have some information about the STEM Center for Strength. This was shared directly from them. So it gives a few different links or information about how to connect, learn, do, and heal. This is for our May 7th support and following up with students to make sure that we are meeting their needs based on where they are at. Lynn, I don't know if you have more to add.
I was going to add, unrelated to just if they're new to STEM, they still have access to these resources. So they still have access to speak with a mental health professional. Doesn't necessarily need to be about a certain event. They can talk to their teacher. We can connect them with a mental health specialist, or if they want to contact them directly and they don't want to involve us, then they can do that too. And then I believe that information either was already sent out or will be sent out. Lennon, do you have information about that?
No, just what you had just shared.
So we'll look into finding if these links don't work. I think that they do work on this.
And you can also reach out to Hannah Reese at any time through the website. If you go to our website and look for Hannah Reese, she is our coordinator that works with the STEM Center for Strength. So she's an excellent resource for you. I know that there was a couple other questions. I think there was a question about supplies. So yes, there's another pickup time on Friday from 8 to noon, same schedule. I believe A through E was 8 o'clock. F through, I don't know, L was 9 o'clock. And then I think it's like every 6 letters for each hour or something of that nature. To be honest with you, the line was not very long last Friday. So anytime between 8 and noon, you're welcome to come through the elementary drive line to pick up those supply kits. And then the other question I saw that I was going to grab to answer was about the class list. I think that Swati, you were asking about are there class lists as far as like student class lists? We do not share that information, but they are 5th graders. So at some point they will get to know their classmates to be able to share that with you. If you're interested in making connections with other 5th grade students or parents, I have seen on the STEM Highlands Ranch Facebook page, there are different groups. So there's, like a 5th grade parent group, there's a 2nd grade parent group, an online support parent group. So you're able to join those groups. And then also, if you go on the STEM website, there is something called a membership toolbox that's run through PTO. So you can register for that. Anyone that registers for that is saying, I am open to sharing my name and number and information and email, and welcome that contact. But we are unable to share that information with you as a staff member.
We do have another question about the human body growing and changing. That is the sex ed, and that will all the information will be sent home to parents beforehand. That is one of our last topics that we cover in about the early to middle-ish range of May. But parents will be notified of everything that we are covering beforehand.
So to answer what does the B group need to bring tomorrow? We really just want people to bring their computers so we can kind of get a walkthrough on Canvas and getting them set up with their email. Other than that, all of the supplies are at school. And then there's another question. I know somebody had raised their hand, but I actually don't have a way to find that person on my screen. So if that person that just raised their hand could type their question in the chat.
And then how attendance will be handled for 100% online. That'll be taken when students sign into their Zoom sessions that day. And those Zoom session times will vary, but they will be posted at the beginning of each week, along with the Zoom links for each of the classes.
The Zoom sessions also will most likely be on their off days, a Zoom check-in. It's not a full 45-minute Zoom session. It's more of a check-in. So the instruction will be provided through a recorded lesson or a Nearpod lesson or like a Khan Academy link and some activity that they're completing. But then we are needing students to do then a check-in with their teacher. And that's when the attendance can be taken and the teachers can then answer any specific questions or help students through their learning during that day.
I can answer a few of these other questions. There will be hot lunch for in-person kids. The only change to lunch is there's no more salad bar. I'm not sure about the office suite from DCSD. I believe that they can just sign in on Google and it connects. Does it not? I'm not sure about that answer. I'm sorry, I'll have to look into that. For online students, they're following the class schedule. So all of the 5th grade team has the same schedule for each class. The only thing that's different between us is our specials. So those will be kind of in a rotation of 2 weeks. So they'll essentially go online, they'll read the directions for that day, they'll complete those assignments within that class period and complete those activities, and then they will log into their next class. And then if they're at home during lunch and recess, then that will be their lunch and recess at home. For the headphones, they can wear headphones if they prefer not to have earbuds. Our main concern is them dropping them, or if you spent $300 on headphones and they break them at school or something happens to them, that's kind of the main concern. So I guess it's up to your judgment if you want to send your child with headphones and just trust that they will take care of them, then that's your decision. Wireless earbuds. I think that wireless earbuds are allowed. However, I've tried wireless earbuds and I've had issues connecting them to my computer through Bluetooth at the school. So that might be something to consider. Do we know if Pick My Kid will be working this week? I think we're still working on it. Lennon, do you have an update on Pick
Yeah,
My
I can
Kid?
give you an update on that. So my hope is to have a solid update for you tomorrow afternoon. I've been working with Pick My Kid and getting that up and running. We are converting to a program called Clever, which will help all students. It will be a one-click login. Instead of having logins and passwords for all of these apps, it will sync to all those apps. So the problem was Clever and Pick My Kid do not seem to want to play nicely together. So we're going to try to transfer all of the information and data through Pick My Kid manually, which we're in the process of doing. My hope is for cohort B families to be able to make sure you download that app either tonight or tomorrow. I will let you know for certain if Thursday we are going to give the Pick My Kid app a pilot run prior to next Monday. If for some reason we are unable to give it a try on Thursday, if we still cannot not get those systems speaking the same language, then we will return to the placard system. For those of you that were here last year, different placards mean who you're picking up. So if you only have a kindergarten, first grade student, they're dismissed at 2:20, and those cars come in. They have a certain color placard. We know that those cars are the ones to let in first. Then second through fifth grade, those cars are a different color placard, and they are let in at 2:30. And then if you have a K-5 student and a secondary student, they're allowed in at 2:50. So my hope is that we are going to give it a good shot for Thursday at dismissal, and then be ready to go for Monday. If worse comes to worse, please look at for your emails. Then we will be out in drive line on Wednesday and Thursday handing out those neon colored cards for the placard system to return the following week when we have a greater number of students on campus at one given time. One last question I was going to jump in and answer was about students walking off campus. Students are allowed to walk off campus. We do request that you fill out a piece of paperwork granting them permission. You can email Julie Fletcher. She is our new elementary school registrar, and she is able to send you that paperwork. So if you want to meet them at Starbucks or off campus, we ask that we are not picking up students in our neighborhood, the neighborhood across the street. That becomes a problem when the cars are backed up and waiting in people's driveways or street areas. But if you have an alternate plan for your student, just please fill out that paperwork to allow for them to walk off campus. And it should be filled out every year. So if you filled it out last year, it would need to be filled out again this year.
So just to clarify some of the confusion with the hybrid versus the virtual students. So we have an IA, or we have an EA/IA that will be essentially supervising our class while we're on those check-in meetings with the students online. We can't have them Zoom into our classroom because then we have a bunch of students that are online unsupervised watching us, which is kind of a breach of student confidentiality also. We don't know who's recording the meeting and whatnot. So that is why we're not doing it at the same time, although that would be ideal. I know there are a lot of unanswered questions with the Zoom and the check-ins, which is why we will send an email with all of that clarification or all that clarifying information that says essentially this is what will happen at this time. This is what your student can do if they're completely online. We'll also send an email with the link for Friday's orientation. And I think, realistically, I don't know if we have all of the answers yet because this is also new for us, but we are trying to communicate as a team and figure out the best way to make this work. So hopefully by the end of the week, we will have a very clear plan for how to start the e-learners, and just trust that we will communicate frequently. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add. I see a lot of other questions. I'm just going to start firing them off until somebody else has something to add. If students absent for school, do I need to call the students attendance line? If you don't call the students attendance line, then we'll mark them absent for our class. And then that may cause some concern. So you can call in attendance as normal. Are we allowed to keep our face shields? I'm not sure about the answer to that. If you received a face shield from the school? I don't believe that we did that, so I would say yes.
They will be receiving face shields. Students will receive face shields, but a face shield is an additional layer of protection. It still needs to be worn with a mask. So every student has to have a mask unless they have a medical accommodation and a 504. But otherwise, the face shield's just used as an additional protection.
And just to add on, I see a couple of different questions have appeared at different times about how many students are in-person learning. So for orientation, we split them up into 2 groups, and I had actually asked why that was, because we did have kind of a very different sized group in the morning orientation versus the afternoon. I mean, this afternoon we had more students than all of the other grades, but in the morning we had some classes where we only had 1 student, and we didn't choose the split. So it just worked out that way, but realistically, when the morning and afternoon sessions will be together. So it'll be around 8 to 10 students, it's looking like, for all of our classes.
Lenan, there was a question about KOGAT this year.
I have not heard either way about KOGAT. I imagine KOGAT is still occurring, but I do feel that some of the CMAS testing will be suspended for this year. I haven't gotten a definitive word. And as soon as I have yes or no with the KOGAT, we will release that information to you. And yes, students will be able to keep their face shields. I think there was an attendance one too. I'm just going to grab some questions too, Mac. So if your student is just not feeling well, or you're uncertain about whether they should attend school, they do have the opportunity to then go virtual anytime. So if they wake up and they have a headache, or maybe they have a low-grade fever and no other symptom, just 1 symptom, and you're wondering what is going on with them, by all means, please keep them home if they have a fever. But if they're well enough to get online and participate in the online lessons and do the check-ins, then they will not be marked absent. So as long as they're doing the check-in and they're completing that work on time and as planned with the teacher, then they will not be marked absent. If they were supposed to be in person, they don't show up online, then they're marked absent, and then it will follow the late work policy. So for every day absent, it's 2 days to complete those assignments.
We also included that information in the syllabus that we'll send out in an email, that also has the technology contract and all of that other good information. So it has kind of a more outlined version of that attendance policy and how they can contact us to catch up on late work and all of that. I know there also was a comment about class pets. I know I've had some students ask that during our orientation. I can't find who asked that now, but in terms of pets, I had said my concern with having pets would be if we end up having to close, then we might not be able to get those pets out of the classroom, which would be sad. So the answer right now is no class pets. So we'll just have to wait and see if things change.
I think Mr. Galatos had asked a question about blending more of the synchronous and asynchronous lessons to, bring the class together. I think at some point we hope that we can offer more of those learning opportunities. But to begin with, I think we're going to do our best to step it up from what we were offering in the spring, from the March to May time, and that teachers are still in that learning cycle, and as well as the students are, right? So we're asking our teachers, admin is asking our teachers to be very flexible with all of the changes and be open to learning new ways of providing instruction, but know that we're continually looking to improve and grow. So I think that the important thing is that we're all flexible and we're working together as a team. And if your student needs something different, and you have ideas, I know that each one of our teachers are open for discussions and want to partner with you this year. So I would just say, keep those lines of communication open and know that all of our PD is focused on online learning and how to support our students while they're away from the classroom.
So I saw a couple of questions that I wanted to answer. The first one was about students rotating to different classrooms this year. Because of the situation that we're in, our homeroom students will be working with us for the entire day. We will be collaborating together to be able to create unique PBL opportunities for the students and to make sure that they get all sorts of opportunities to learn and engage, but they will not be physically moving to any other classrooms this year. I also saw a question about if a student misses a check-in. So we do have the ability on our side to be able to mark attendance for the different class periods. So if a student is not there during the math check-in and it's math time, we do have the ability to mark them as absent during math. So it is very important that they make an effort to be present for every Zoom check-in during that day. The other thing that I wanted to do was tag on to what Ms. Kowaleski said and just open up the invitation to you to have a very communicative year. So we are here to collaborate with you, to work with you. Any questions that you have, please always reach out. We want to really partner with you this year to make it as successful as for your child as we can. So please do not hesitate to reach out, and we will also be reaching out to you often to communicate.
And to kind of add on a unique piece here, fifth grade actually found out a way to merge all of our class lists into just 4 classes instead of most other grades are having each teacher has the 4 classes. So we merged ours with the idea of kind of keeping some consistency and building community. So even if they're in just my homeroom, they may be receiving a lesson in language arts from Miss Land. That's a video from Miss Land and a whole lesson from her. And then they can just check in with me. So we are all working as a team to try to make this consistent across all teachers, so it's not really different for all of us. The check-ins, we don't exactly know the time for the check-ins yet, but we will send an email with that information and we will include it in the agenda on Canvas. Trying to keep up with the chat here. In what scenario will an entire classroom be quarantined versus one individual? Lenann, do you know the answer to that question? Oh, you're on mute.
I apologize. I was frantically answering a Driveline question. Sorry, I missed the whole thing. I was typing.
So it was asking, in what scenario will an entire classroom be quarantined versus just one individual?
So if a student, and this is more of a Karen Lewis question, I'll give you what I understand to be the truth right now, but honestly, if you want the facts, I would reach out to Karen Lewis, our end. But my understanding from today is that a student must have 2 symptoms. So you can have a fever and no other symptom, the class is not quarantined. If the student is in the classroom or an adult is in the classroom for more than 15 minutes in close proximity, and they have more than those 2 symptoms, then it would be a situation of quarantine. However, I would absolutely positively reach out to Karen Lewis or our FAQ, that sheet that Nicole Bostel has for specific questions. I believe there's information on the FAQ, and that is something that is changing regularly.
I also don't believe we have any updates on field trips at this time.
Currently, we cannot go on any field trips. So any field trip would be done virtually within our own classroom.
Can I answer instead of me typing frantically about Pick My Kid? So as I was caught off task there. So Pick My Kid. So Pick My Kids, the students will be staying in their classroom. As you come to STEM, you will need to have your app on and open. It's a geo-fence, so as soon as you cross into that parking lot, it sends a signal up to your student's classroom teacher to let them know that they are in the parking lot, and it queues the students in 4 different queues. So when you get to that first queue that you're in that Driveline area, that pickup area, the teachers are signaled to send those students down to the Driveline. We have our IAs set up throughout the school to assist with them and get them going and make sure that they're not making pit stops at different classrooms or with friends, and that we get them out as fast as we can. As far as middle school students or high school students coming to pick up elementary school students, the secondary students are not allowed for safety reasons. They are not allowed in the elementary school wing. But with Pick My Kid, your student will walk right out to the Driveline, and secondary at 2:55 will be walking out And if you're pulling your car in at that time, which students of secondary students should not be coming in until 2:50, or you should not be pulling into that parking lot, we're going to have you loop. If you drive in at 2:30 and you have a secondary student, we're going to ask you to do another loop, and nobody wants to loop the drive line more than once. But secondary will be coming out. Your elementary school student will walk out that front door. Your car will be there. Your secondary student will be coming out the middle school cafeteria. And hopefully, if all goes well, there will be no need for a sibling care hallway and no need for a secondary student to meet up with a primary student. Rima, I see something about twins. You asked if it's in, yes, if it's in another, if you have a sibling in another classroom, more than likely, if there is a positive test, then the classroom would be quarantined as well. But like I said, please, we want to answer as many questions as we can. But I think as far as the medical questions, those questions are best sent to Karen Lewis.
So in terms of check-ins, right now, I think we're starting with a check-in for math and a check-in for language arts. However, I realize that both of those classes are in the morning, so then they have the afternoon classes without a check-in. So I think we still need to discuss how to do that. But our main focus is math and language arts. So that information also will have to come out when we send our email with a clearer schedule.
Additionally, I did see a question about if students can set their own pace when they are online learning. So our courses will be setting to, I guess, turn on during the time that they would have that class during the day. So our expectation is that students structure their day as they would as if they were at school. So they will not be able to access their afternoon social studies lesson until that time. So if you have any more questions about that, I know Ms. O'Toole knows more about it than I do, but please know that it will be a structured day for the students. So please plan on having them follow that schedule.
I actually also have a Canvas trick, if I can share my screen one more time for a quick second.
And while Ms. Harper does that, I have seen a couple of questions about switching your child from virtual to hybrid learning. I do know that Ms. Kowaleski will probably be able to better answer that than I, but I do know that at this time it is possible to make the switch, but please give the school ample time to be notified of the switch so that we are sure of what's going on, so that we have notice. So
kind of a quick sidestep here. On their Canvas course, they have a tab that says calendar, which I think is a very useful tool, especially if they're trying to keep track of what to do at what time. So I'm in some professional development classes, so I do have assignments here that have due dates. So as all of their courses show up, then they have this over here on the side that shows which courses or which colors for which assignment. So they will all have due dates on each assignment, or if it's just an assignment that they're doing in class that they need to submit at the end of class, then that will show up on their calendar also. So if I wanted to access this assignment, for example, I see that this is due, I can click on this. This was actually an example assignment I had students do today. So I could open this and then click on the assignment, and it would, I deleted this assignment. Oh, it's still here. So then this would be the assignment. So they can also use the calendar feature as a way to keep track of which assignments are still due. And then once they submit, I believe on their calendar, it does this grayed out kind of cross strike through their assignment. So it's kind of like a checklist. And then actually, as we're planning, we can try to develop a way for this to be more accessible for them. So potentially in our agenda, kind of having it more of a checklist style where they can say, okay, first I need to do this, then I need to go watch this video, then I need to watch Ms. O'Toole's lesson, then I need to do this assignment. And that hopefully will help them adapt. If they are new to STEM, Canvas is going to be kind of the major hurdle. So if they're returning to STEM, hopefully they're familiar with this and they can access those assignments. If they're new, we're trying to teach them as much as we can at orientation, either in person or on Friday.
I do want to let you know, I know that Ms. Land had mentioned it, those lessons might not be offered to a certain time until a certain time, but if for some reason your family situation changes and your child is not allowed to get on during those check-in times, they may be marked absent. It's okay for a student to be marked absent. We know that students are going to learn the most when they have FaceTime with their teacher and when they can be in person and when parents are feeling safe and students are feeling safe. But students learn best with that relationship and being with one another. But we do also want to be understanding and be flexible, as I mentioned before, about every family has a different circumstance and situation. So communication is the key this year. So if you are in a situation and your student is unable to get online, or they have to go stay with a relative and are going to be without internet for an extended period of time, we're going to work with you. Our teachers are going to work with you. Our admin team is going to work with you. I just think that the best way is to stay in communication and contact either way. So it's that they can't get to those assignments, they can't go to those check-ins, and we say, okay, how can we get this work to you and keep your student on track? Or it's that, hey, you know what, we're feeling confident and we're seeing that things are going really well in schools right now, and we want our student to come back. If you can just give us 1 day's notice, you need to email Stephanie Webb and say, we want to switch our academic learning plan, and then our doors are open, we'll take you back the other way. So I think flexibility and communication are going to be the key factors in all of our success this year.
There are some comments about kind of implying, why can I not do all of my assignments at once and then be done? And I think kind of the benefit, I know that that was the plan earlier, and some students woke up at 5 and did all of their assignments before 7, and then they hung out all day. I think the benefit of having us on a schedule is that when they do the check-ins, they'll be with other students. So although this is kind of an abnormal experience, they're getting some kind of normalcy with checking in with other students and building a community. And if they are just doing their own assignments and just finishing by 7 a.m., then they don't get to meet those other students and build those relationships. So trying to make this feel as normal as possible, we're just essentially transferring the school day to an online version rather than just saying, okay, here's a bunch of stuff that you need to do. So I'm assuming it was a lot of students asking about that, but in case you're wondering kind of the purpose, that's at least my purpose and kind of the value in doing it this way versus just having you do all of the assignments by yourself.
And again, please, please, please reach out, just like we will be reaching out to you. Communication will be so important this year, and we are here to help be flexible with you. We're here to support your students, both academically and socially and emotionally. So please keep those communication pathways open, because we are happy to be that resource for you and support for you right now.
I think that wraps up many of our questions. I know we had some kids in there asking some questions about phones and different things from school, and hopefully we have answered as many as we can in this last 50 minutes. I am going to let the teachers off the hook so they can grab a bite to eat and enjoy their evening. I know I saw one last thing about walking home at Ms. Kerr. It is Julie Fletcher is our new registrar. So reach out to Ms. Fletcher if you have walking home questions or attendance questions. Any of the teachers, those are your go-to with concerns or help. Those are your first level of support. If you're having any trouble beyond that, you can always reach out to me. And then Dr. Johnson for curriculum and data. So we definitely appreciate all of your time this evening and all the wonderful questions. We'll save the chat. We can save our chat box there, and we'll take the time to go through and try to make sure that we answered all of your questions. This will also be sent out. All the teachers are going to send this out to our parents. And then also Nicole Bostel will be posting it for later viewing. So thank you very much, you guys. Thank you for attending.